Apologies for the noise, folks, but the heater is on and it's staying on. It's a bit fresh in here. I don't know how many times I've done intros to these videos. Today we're back on the C15 build on the bench. As you can see, there is a mess because I'm trying to get kind of stock take of what we've got, what we haven't got, what's missing, what's arrived. So I'm going to tidy all that up now, and then we're getting something quite controversial. So I need to fit the mains bearing onto the crank, and there's many schools of thought on that. The BSA cranks are extremely tight in the bearings, which makes it quite difficult when you're shimming up, because the shim goes against the flywheel, then the bearing goes on, and the bearing needs to go into the case, then you need to fit the crank into the cases. So there's quite a decent forum, the B50 forum, where there's a lot of advice there. It comes from Mark Cook and many other people. There's a guy Commando there, and yeah, some other people, and as I did with my BSA and as we did with the B40 engine, you dress the crank until the mains bearing is a nice snug but possible to fit by hand sliding fit on that left hand flywheel. Once you've done that, you can then fit the bearing into the case, you can fit the crank in, bolt the two case halves together, check the end float, take the crank back out without any marring or burring or need to impact the crank and that sort of thing. Now, some people think, oh, that's not going to work. What is to bear in mind on this engine is that left hand side of the timing side bolts up hard into the bearing. You have the crank and the shaft goes through the bearing, and then there's a shim space the other side which sets the alignment for the output sprocket, and then the rotor goes on for the alternator, and then that's tightened up. As long as that nut is done up with the tab washer and to the correct torque specification, maybe a drop of Loctite on there, that whole assembly is side loaded. So although you're setting end float, the crank doesn't actually float, so it's not going to float in that bearing and skip and skirt around. It will be tight in the bearing. So I have no concerns there. Other people have different schools of thought, and people are welcome to them. You can put them in the comments if you want, but that's how we're going to do it. So that was a long spiel just to say this is how I'm going to do it, and if you've got a different opinion, then you're welcome to it. Yeah, let's get tidied up. And there we are. It's probably doesn't seem all that much tidier, but I know where everything is now. Got some things organised. So, in terms of the crank, we have the new sludge strap, so I'm going to fit that in a second. And for the cases, a lot of threads are damaged. I re-tapped those out without recording, because I'm very naughty. But it seems the reason they're damaged is whoever had these cases previously has used UNC or UNF. Yeah, UNC studs. 5/16 UNC to 5/16 UNF studs. So those need replacing. I've ordered some 5/16 bar stock, and I've got a 5/16 BSF die. So I'll make up the studs to the right length, because the cost of them is significant compared to making them high tensile steel. So that kind of puts us on stop in terms of shimming up the crank. That was what I was hoping to do in this video, but so be it. I'd rather do the job properly. But for now, I'm gonna get the sludge trap put in and fit the anti-drain back valve into these cases. So let's do that, and yeah, I think we'll call it there. So this one is really simple. I am literally tiniest drop of Loctite, not too much, and drop that in there. Now this has been cleaned. Martin already cleaned and prepped the crank, and I'll just give it a quick going over again. So that's going in. So that's in, and before the crank goes in for its final time, I'll centre dot that, just to make sure, doubly sure it doesn't back out. But that's as simple as fitting the sludge trap. Now I can't stress how important it is, if you're going to take one of these apart, to get that out of there, get all the debris out. If the big end is good, get it a thorough clean before checking for free play, and then if it's good, then put it back together. If not, obviously you'll have to have it pressed apart or do it yourself if you have the ability to do that. But if you're in that situation, you don't need me to tell you, make sure you do the sludge trap. So that's that one done. Nice, quick and simple. The next is this case half. Yeah. So in here there is a small cavity, and in here I have a mixture of bearings, and in here I have the spring. This is a new spring for the drain back valve. It's quite a soft spring, to be fair, and this is relatively simple as well. So just give that a quick bit of a spray out. Got any last remaining debris that might be lying about. So, and this is as simple as put the ball bearing in, drop the spring in the hole, and we get a small flat blade screwdriver, and sand it, or drop of Loctite. The temptation is to go mad, but you only really need to cover one thread, and then wind in and back out. It's the same position it was in virtually. There's our anti-drain back valve. I'll just demonstrate to you as well the final fit of that crank bearing. You probably would have seen it on the time lapse, but it's easy enough to show again. So here's our new FAG bearing. This came from, and it's no paid partnership or anything of that nature, they're just extremely helpful people. Premier Bearings in Tamworth, which is where the town I'm in. They did a particularly, they're a good quality bearing. They stock everything I've built recently has come from there, and this C3 bearing, which is the clearance spec of the timing side bearing, drive side bearing, they didn't have in stock, but they actually went out that morning and fetched this for me so that I could pick them up in the afternoon. So kudos to them. But yeah, so as you can see, it's a good snug fit. It's got to be dead square for that to slide on nice and easy, like that. And that makes it nice because once it goes to the cases it'll be a bit more snug, per se. But yeah, I just don't want to be hammering or having to force the crank into the cases once this is in, with the shims. So, as I explained earlier, I have no concerns over that. Some people might. And the only other one, these back on here, prevent the threads on the crank being damaged. The only other one then, which I'll show you now, is this kind of clearance bearing, which is for the high gear. So this ultimately will live in the gearbox housing down in there. So that one will live down in there, and the eagle-eyed of you will see that I ordered a 2RS bearing, and that's just an attempt to double seal the one side of the gearbox. So what we will do before we fit this, extract one of these rubber seals, so you only got the rubber seal on the reverse side. That will go into the blind, well, against the shoulder. So effectively you've got the rubber seal that's in the bearing, and then there'll be the shaft seal on the outside, just to try and mitigate some of the potential oil leaks. But that will about do it for this episode, I think. Like I say, I was hoping to get the crank shimmed up and the cases together, but I need that studding material, so you can guess what the next episode will be. On that note, guys, thank you for watching. Click like, subscribe, all the good stuff as per usual, and yeah, we're moving forward. Take it easy.